Hi everyone, welcome to the Elendi Files, where we navigate the complexities of the global regulatory landscape of medical products. Our goal is to help make global medical product regulations accessible to everyone. Whether you're a manufacturer, intermediary, regulatory specialist, or CEO of a medtech startup, you're in the right place. Be sure to connect with us on LinkedIn and our website, elendilabs.com. And hello, this is Teddy, the general manager of Elendi Labs. At Elendi Labs, we're all about connecting clients, be it medical product manufacturers, medtech startups, biotech startups, with the right regulatory expertise to get products to people faster. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Hussein from Indonesia, a firm that helps to navigate the complexities of the Indonesian market. And we're going to be spending some time learning more about the regulatory landscape in Indonesia and the Indonesian Health Authority, BPOM, right? It's BPOM. So
yeah,
thanks for being here. And to kick things off, could you give us a brief introduction of what product registration Indonesia specializes in?
Thank you, Teddy, for having me. So let me reintroduce myself. So my name is Hussein, and I'm currently the CEO and co-founder at productregistrationindonesia.com. So we're basically a consulting firm. We help market entry in the aspect of regulatory affairs for medical devices, supplements, quasi-medicine, herbal standardized medicine, and halal. So I myself have been in the industry for more than 15 years, but we also have partners in the firm totaling like almost more than 3 decades, combined experience between us. Yeah.
Well, it seems that your company, our product registration Indonesia, does provide a lot of services that covers they cover most areas in the medical product industry. That's very comprehensive and exhaustive list of services. And okay, it's a great foundation. And how about let's dive a bit deeper into our conversation. I would like to start with the most commonly asked questions. Maybe the most commonly asked questions are: what are the costs and timelines like for registering a Class A medical device in Indonesia?
So the timeline, the SLA from the MOH is 15 working days. But during that process, so the government can ask for a supplemental data. So you are given another additional 10 days. And after providing those supplemental data, the government adds another 10 working days for reviewing those supplemental data. So combined, around 45 working days.
To make sure we are aligned on the terms, MOH means the Ministry of Health, and then SLA means the Service Level Agreement, right?
Yes, correct.
It's like a guaranteed timeline given out by the government in Indonesia. But I would like to ask, so basically it's like 45 days, but to your understanding, according to your experience, is it the most manufacturers, do they usually get their product registered in like less than 2 months? Maybe there is more to the SLA.
So that's a very good question. So based on past experiences, I've seen manufacturers are ready with the documents. So our fastest time right now on record is around 2.5 to 3 months for Class A. So that's our current record. So we can do it if the manufacturers are ready. But the primary bottlenecks would be on 2 places based on my past experience. So number 1 is the manufacturers are not ready, especially regarding the LOA. So that would take most of the time. So Indonesia already ratified the Hague Apostille Convention. So we accept apostille documents from authorized government-appointed bodies. But from several countries, I would prefer to do that in the Indonesian embassy due to differences in language that may cause a problem. Also, another bottleneck is the government website that is prone to downtimes.
So you just mentioned, I think there are 2 points from what you just said. The first one is the readiness of documents. Do you like does product registration Indonesia offer a checklist for manufacturers before like it starts application submitting applications online?
Yeah, so we provide our clients with a very exhaustive list of requirements and precautions. So we already in the beginning we let them know. So this is going to be your primary bottleneck here. So you need to focus on this first. So and then we also provide some notes regarding the requirements. So what we do is that we're not only providing the requirements, but also providing the precautions of preparing those requirements, and also for products like in class 3 that requires several extra requirements, we also provided the boundaries for them to fulfill. Like for if they're going to do an experiment, how many test subjects there are needed, and so on and so on.
So, and the second point is the online system. You mentioned that there are like downtimes for the system, but so are we currently? I mean, is this 100%? Is the application 100% electronic, or it's like 50% electronic and then 50% paper based?
So nice question. Indonesia is transitioning from a totally offline submission to a 100% online submission. So right now we're on the phase of 100% online submission. But the problem would be there's so many submissions. And to be honest, I don't think that the government is currently 100% prepared for that.
So there's no way for one company, for one consultancy to submit the paper application for the application, like paper documents
There's no paper documents. 100% no way. But we have several techniques to provide our clients access to the Ministry of Health by directly emailing with the person in charge in the Ministry of Health.
Okay. Well, it seems like your company has certain advantages in accessing the system and communicating with the health authorities in Indonesia. I think it's important because
I agree.
And then I also know that product registration Indonesia has a lot of international clients, and Indonesia happens to be the largest healthcare market in Southeast Asia. And then from your perspective, what is the single largest misconception in for international brands they might have about the Ministry of Health in Indonesia?
So I've been in several roles in my experiences in healthcare. So I've been in the commercial role, I've been in the distributor role, and I've been in the regulatory role and management role. So one thing keeps coming up along these years is that many international manufacturers think that the business model that works everywhere else will work in Indonesia. So I think that's the biggest misconception here, because Indonesia is 17 island plus, and we have thousands of languages that I myself may not know, and very different markets. Like for I think the mostly dense populated island in Indonesia would be Java. In Java itself, there are like 6 or 7 major cultural differences in Java. So I don't think that there is no one size fits all in Indonesia. And regarding regulatory, most would think that registration means, okay, now I can sell in Indonesia. This is just the first part.
So you just mentioned there are so many languages in or dialects in Indonesia. What's like the official language for um, the documents required by the Ministry of Health?
Yeah, it's the national language, Indonesia. It's 100%
100% Indonesia.
Indonesia.
Okay, okay. And also, in Indonesia, a foreign manufacturer must appoint a local distributor who holds the marketing authorization, or termed as the PAC, right? PAC. What advice would you give to founders to ensure they choose a partner who won't trap the licenses if the relationship turns out later on?
So there, as I mentioned before, like there's no one size fits all. But unfortunately, as you mentioned, that Indonesia adopts an exclusive distributorship model in terms of regulatory registration here, right? And I've seen successful stories, like with one distributor, they managed to conquer like Java than the other islands. But I've seen many more bad stories where distributorship like simply did not perform, simply cannot perform. So that's why this business model of ours was conceived in the first place, to help those businesses so they don't get locked in. So what we offer is a middle ground between that. So we hold the license as the license holder, but then we don't do any commercial activities. The manufacturer can appoint as many sub-distributors as they like. For instance, so you have, based on islands or market access or channels, like if they want one distributor in Java, and then they want one distributor in Sumatra, and then they want one distributor in reimbursement, and then they want one distributor in private. So they can do it. And whenever those distributors did not perform, it's easy as 1, 2, 3 to disconnect with them.
Also, basically, product registration in Indonesia acts as the localized representative, and then it holds the license, and then sort of and then the manufacturer might appoint I don't know, as many distributors as it see fits, right? And then even the relationship between the manufacturers and the distributors might change in the future. They might switch because the anchor is product registration Indonesia, which acts as the license holder, so it doesn't change, right? So
yeah, correct. And of course, I would like to add that the best business model would be for foreign manufacturers or principals to set up their own office or distributor or affiliate here in Indonesia. That's the best model. But that could be very expensive and very difficult.
So you suggest that foreign manufacturers hold their own product licenses, right? In this way, because they have their own entities. But how expensive is it? Because you just mentioned it would be much more costly.
Yeah, so you need to own or to rent a bit an infrastructure here, warehouse, an office. Then you have to recruit the team here in Indonesia. Then you have to do all the licenses. The as you mentioned, the EDAC, the CDAKB, the good distribution practices, and everything. And that takes time. It takes money also. So what I would often say to our clients is that, so you can use our organization as a scaffolding to build your business. So you use our licenses, our experiences, our capabilities to register to commercialize your product here in Indonesia. And at the same time, if you find that the market here in Indonesia is attractive, you can start building your own company with us as the scaffolding for building your company.
Okay, wow. Well, this is a great strategy because
Yeah,
because I think for foreign manufacturers, they might get lost in the regulations and the requirements of
correct,
the Ministry of Health. So
correct.
I think it's a good strategy because many the manufacturers, they might not be very familiar with the local regulations, and I also get lost, tend to get
Yeah,
lost among the regulations because there are so many different languages and then different cultures, and then their norm might differ from the foreign ones. So
yeah.
it's good that but since it seems your company offers a lot of services.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what I mentioned by scaffolding is we provide an end-to-end. So whatever they want, we also have several sister companies that can help in regulate in navigating management-wise, like setting up your company, paying taxes, doing payroll. So we have another whole entity which is called Business Hub Asia. So you can look it up, businesshubasia.com. So that's our sister company. So that also helps with the scaffolding materials, as I mentioned before.
Scaffolding. Okay. And I also heard that you just mentioned the good distribution practice CDAC. Yeah.
CDAKB, yeah.
CDAKB. Is it now a mandatory prerequisite for product registration if a
Yep.
local distributor loses their
Yep.
CDAKB certification during routine audit? Does every like product registration they hold become instantly invalid?
So CDAKB has been mandatory since I believe July 2024. So companies were given some leniency time to fulfill the requirements for CDAKB. So right now it's already mandatory, and if companies doesn't have a CDAKB, then it doesn't mean that currently the registered product is revoked, but it means that you cannot register another new one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the client might get stuck. So the client might get stuck with the current products. If it
Yeah.
wants to expand new product lines, then it's simply impossible.
Impossible, yeah,
Okay.
because it's and also not only registering new products, but they cannot be involved in government tenders.
Oh, government tenders. Okay, even.
Yeah.
So they'll be like put on a blacklist. Is it?
Actually, no blacklist. There's no blacklist, but they're given notice which companies are not fulfilling CDAKB, but they need to upload CDAKB each time they register, each time they're getting into government tenders.
Okay. Okay, good. And then I also noticed that the Indonesian government always pushes for local elements, local content. There is this term called TKDN, right? Local content requirements, especially for government tenders and procurement. How is this impacting international manufacturers of imported devices? Any strategies to remain competitive in public tenders?
Yeah, so this is especially true for mass-produced and mass-used products, such as nitrile hand gloves and such, because there's a lot of players, and especially locally produced products are a lot for mass-used products, but it's a different story for novel products. So basically, the government, this is what I call as an obligatory favoritism. So they favor more for products with higher local content, especially above 40%. So that's the magic
40%.
number there, 40%. So then if above 40%, then the government hospital must choose that product over product which has less than 40% local content. But there are two things that we need to remember. Number one, if your product is new, novel, then there's no other product like it in the market, then you can zero local content is okay with you, right? But also there's number two, is that you have to remember that we have 17,000 islands, and not all distributors can distribute to all the islands. So in some islands with lower local content is still permissible. But there's another but there. They are then open and prone for government audit. So if like the farthest island in Indonesia is Papua, if you know Papua, right? Papua is very far from Jakarta. So like let's say no one is selling hand gloves with above 40% local content in Papua. So they buy something below 40% that is available in Papua, right?
Yeah.
But then that local hospital in Papua can be audited by the government finance checker audit.
So it's like an on-site audit, and is the audit very strict? And yeah.
Oh, very dangerous. Very dangerous.
Why?
It's because some people can lose their job because of that.
So
so they don't want it. Sometimes for some hospitals, it's better we don't buy at all.
Okay.
Because they're very scared.
So does Product Indonesia help with the with audit?
So we don't help with the audit because that's like it's done by the government institution, but we help them to be able to reach that 40%. Yes.
Okay. Wow. It seems like it's because it just mentioned it's dangerous and I'm given to understand that there's so many traps and
yes,
things
like that
prepared in advance.
Yeah, so you have to, if your product is being used massively, so try to reach that 40% if you're going to enter the reimbursement market or the government tenders.
Okay. So if the local content is less than like 40%, then the local health authorities, they tend to be stricter, right? For products.
Yeah. If you buy something below 40%, then it's some hospital might avoid that.
Okay, wow, that's an alarm, and I think
being audited is they don't want being audited because meaning that if they are being audited, it's not just that one product, right? It's the whole hospital system being audited.
Whole system being audited. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow, it's interesting to know.
Yeah. But with the current government by President Prabowo, I see each day being more and more lenient, more and more easy. Yes, especially with TKDN under 40%, like what we've discussed before. Like there's an additional 20% of TKDN if it's being developed in Indonesia.
Okay, okay, and another unique aspect of the Indonesian market is the evolving halal certification requirement for medical devices. Is this currently a deal breaker for certain categories, and how should manufacturers begin preparing their technical dossier to meet the standards?
So this is the most asked question for me this year. Also, we are being asked to write an article for the Journal of Medical Devices. And So the quick answer is no. It's not a deal breaker.
Okay.
But your product, number one, might get issues during customs because now the halal is based on HS code. So you can see which HS codes in our website. So we provide the HS codes that are going to be impacted this year, mostly with class A devices and supplements here in October, I think 2026. And also number two that we need to remember is that Indonesia is 80 to 90% Muslim majority. So halal is already a big issue before this even was being implemented by the government. So next time they might be putting a label in products that has not obeyed the mandatory halal requirements. So they put this is non-halal with a big red square in the product.
So currently, there are certain categories that must have the halal certificate, certain HS code product.
Yeah. So you can download the HS codes in our website.
Okay. But for it seems like you just mentioned during customs, right? So for existing products that do not have the halal certificate but also fall into the HS code product categories, are they fine to continue to exist in the in warehouses and even be sold on the market?
No, there's no fine, and they still can be sold, but it's a requirement during customs, and if they don't fill it, then they need to put a logo or a sticker, I believe, for non-halal product. It's not said it's not halal, but it's not fulfilling the halal requirements. And actually, the technical implementation of this is not out yet. But we can see that that's the way that the government is heading.
So I think the main problem lies with importation, right? So
so they put the chokehold in the importation first, then on the distributor side.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, for new products being imported into Indonesia, this must be a huge concern for the manufacturers.
Yeah.
And for some people also ask if a manufacturer has already secured a CE mark or US FDA approval, and how much of that data can be leveraged to accelerate the Indonesian submission?
So from my perspective, it's just supplemental, but not mandatory. The mandatory is, of course, the certificate of free sale and the registration from the country of origin. That's the main point. But we have clients that don't have any CE mark, and we still can register them.
But does a CE mark or US FDA approval grant advantages to manufacturers?
Yeah, it makes the registration easier. Sometimes the government, the BPOM or the Ministry of Health, the Indonesian FDA, BPOM meaning that the Indonesian FDA doesn't ask much data, but still all the mandatory requirements need to be there.
Mandatory requirements, okay. So we expect that a manufacturer from the US or UK, they can't simply notarize their local halal certificate, right?
No, wait. For halal, I mean like for CE mark or FDA, doesn't mean automatically registered in Indonesia. Cannot. But for halal, there are several halal bodies that is recognized by the Indonesian Halal Authority that we can process them to make it easier to issue a halal certificate from Indonesia.
So,
It's called an MRA certified halal body, mutually recognized. So the Indonesian authority recognized that body in the UK or in the US.
okay.
So the process time would make it more easier. But that doesn't mean it gets automatic halal in Indonesia.
Okay. Okay. So for manufacturers in the UK or US, they have their halal assessments done in their home countries, and then this might speed up the assessment process in Indonesia. Okay.
Yes, and you can check which halal issuing body from your home country in the Indonesian Halal Authority website.
Oh, there's this list of like white list or white or like
yes, something like a white list. Yes,
yeah.
something like a white list. Correct.
Okay.
A positive list. Yeah, something like that.
Wow. I think that there's so many requirements and a lot of things to pay attention to, a lot of details. Yeah, the devil is in the details, I think.
The details, correct. And it's evolving every day. Even I need to check with my team for updates every week.
So you have to check for updates on the local health authority websites, right?
Yeah. We have a dedicated person for that.
So it's a very dynamic website because because I just heard that there's so many new regulations being launched and many details remain to be finalized. I think.
Yeah, you can have two regulation with the same heading, but one may not be applicable, and you don't know.
So, do you like have an in-house lawyer or a person dedicated to liaise or communicate with the government? Because I think the laws and regulations in Indonesia, there are so many gray areas that remain to be shed some light on.
Yeah, so I think the most gray area is not knowing what is the newest regulation.
The newest regulations.
Okay. Yes. So even we need to have a dedicated person to keep regularly checking every week.
But how about so you just mentioned regulatory checking, but are they very clear on the website, or does the dedicated person have to like inquire further via email or I don't know any other means for further clarification or elaboration?
So as we've discussed earlier, so we have a lot of line of products of services that we offer to our clients. So we need a dedicated person, but that person is enough by doing desktop research. They don't need to liaise directly with the BPOM or the MOH. But sometimes there are major updates that then the MOH or the BPOM sends an invite to us to come and hear them present the new law because it's so fundamental.
Okay. Wow.
So if you're not active in going to the MOH or the BPOM, then they might not send you that invitation.
Well, it's okay. So you have to stay updated and to be on the lookout for any new any news or updates from the health authority.
Correct.
And okay, let's now move on to the next question. Wow, it seems like so many things. There's so many things to cover. Okay, the NIE is tied to a single distributor, and in 2026 is the Ministry of Health allowing for co-marketing licenses with where two different distributors can hold separate NIEs for the same global SKU?
So that was a good question, and so far that I know that's not possible.
It's not possible.
But maybe if you found an information that I can review.
So it's a relatively new law, right? So it's so far there hasn't been a client that has such need.
No, we don't have.
Okay, well, it's quite so at this point you would not suggest this practice.
No, but what we have in experience is one brand can have multiple distributor, but different SKUs.
One brand, different SKUs. Okay.
Yes. So, like you're producing ultrasounds, so you have 10 SKUs. So your company name is ABC, for instance. So ABC can appoint multiple distributor, but not for the same product. So for product 1, you can have distributor A. Okay. For product 2, you can have distributor B. For product 3, you can have distributor C. But for product 1, you cannot have distributor A, B, and C.
Okay.
Does that make more sense to you?
Yeah, it's very clear. Yeah.
Okay. But I'm open if you have new information. As I said, the information is very dynamic, and I'm very open if you have new informations for us.
Yeah, sure. But I think product registration Indonesia should be the expert here. I'm not sure because I'm only based in Hong Kong. It's really hard to keep up with the latest updates from the Ministry of Health in Indonesia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I said, it's very dynamic. Even us, I think one of the points that I need to remind our team is that we need to be always open for new informations and new suggestions, especially from our clients. Maybe they know more because they know their business more than ours.
So, well, it's an interesting point of view because you also learn from your clients, right?
But we need to be very open, right? Because otherwise, we may not know something. There's a very huge possibility. As you said, the laws in Indonesia are very dynamic, and we try to keep up to date with that with weekly reviews. But there might be like overnight. There's one. You remember the CDAKB that I mentioned?
Yeah.
The CDAKB was mandatory in July 2024, but the implementation is overnight. So we didn't know, but when we came to the MOH for a certain issue that we need to resolve, so we saw the announcement in the wall. The CDAKB is mandatory, but we didn't know.
Wow.
So it's something like that.
So you have to be very cautious and attentive to details, especially.
Yes. And I would recommend not to trust AI on this matter.
Yeah, because AI is just basically doing web searching. I don't think there's this, because I don't think all the updates will be uploaded to the internet.
Yes.
Okay.
And we have clients who mention, oh no, the regulation is like this and this and this. And I ask, okay, so where are you? What are your sources? So if you can provide me your sources, that would be very helpful, right? And they say, oh, we asked ChatGPT and this and this. So I said, no, you cannot trust ChatGPT. Very dangerous.
Okay. And some manufacturers might be caught by the 7-day payment rule in the Regacus portal. Portal. And if the letter of authorization expires during a technical review delay, can it be updated mid-process, or does the entire application fail? Is it very strict for the 7-day rule?
Well, we never have a case where it fails, right? I mean, based on 15 years of experience, that has never happened to me. But if you don't pay in 7 days based on the algorithm of the Regal Cash, then I believe it's a failed submission. But then you can re-upload as soon as possible. Like that same day, you can re-upload and ask for a payment. And I don't think that this is something that you need to be aware of. I mean, this is a very straightforward and easy process.
But what about the case when the letter of authorization expires?
Yeah. So I saw your question there, but it also has never happened to us.
Did you have a check?
But because we make the LOA dates more than 5 years, so we ask for the our clients to do 6 years.
6 years.
But the government will only accept 5. So that's a little trick that we do. So we do 6 extra 1, but whatever date you put in that, government will only recognize 5.
Okay.
So you have okay. A head start, right?
Yeah. Okay. Good. It's a little trick. That I think they help. That others help. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last question, the IDEC, right? The new IDAK has replaced the old IPAK and SDAK licenses.
Yes.
In 2024. So
yes, I believe.
So no more indefinite IPAK licenses from years ago.
No.
How is this impacting the old already well established clients in or manufacturers in Indonesia?
So we've helped one client with old IPAC to migrate to the new IDAK, and it's a very simple and straightforward process. I think the whole process only takes 15 days. Very fast.
Very fast. But from being indefinite to only valid for 5 years, does this add to the cost of manufacturers like a lot?
No, I don't think so. It's the process for IDEC right now is quite simple and straightforward. As long as you're doing distribution, it's quite easy.
Okay.
Good. And our record time for helping clients issuing an IDEC is right now on 15 to 20 days finished.
15 to 20 days. Well, it's
smooth. Very easy.
It's fast and smooth, right? Smooth enough.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be a concern.
Okay, good. Well, it was a very productive morning. We are so thankful for having you, Hussein. And
likewise. Thank you for having me, Teddy.
These are really boots on the ground perspective, very practical and insights, and and I think for those who are listening to the podcast, they must have learned a lot through Hussein and the details and the requirements and the traps of getting products registered in Indonesia. And for everyone listening or reading the transcript, we'll be featuring Product Registration Indonesia as a vetted specialist firm on the Elendi Labs platform. And thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you again. And if you haven't checked out our website, please head to elendilabs.com and be sure to connect with us on LinkedIn. Okay, good.